Hi there, everyone, and welcome. I'm Troy Lambert, one of the educators at Plot Geek Academy, and today we're going to talk about Amazon category changes and kind of some category chaos that's been happening in the author and the book world. And this is actually constantly changing. So I'm going to give a few additional updates that I didn't have initially planned for this video, but some things have changed in a relatively short period of time because some of the other things that Amazon is doing, especially related to AI. So with that, let's dive right into it. Now, first of all, who am I to even talk about this? Well, I'm Troy Lambert. I'm the author of over 30 novels, several works of nonfiction, and to say that I wouldn't say that I am an Amazon category expert, but I use tools of people that are Amazon category experts. And this process I'm about to show you, I had to go through and do to almost all of my 32 books that are on Amazon. Almost all of them needed to have this process done. And that is because when Amazon updated these categories earlier this year, the old categories kind of became obsolete. But if you as the author didn't go in and change them, your book might be floating anywhere that Amazon wants to put it. And so people saw some real drops in sales, some real drops in their return on ad spend for this reason. So we're going to talk about that throughout this video. Okay, so what happened? Well, in the old category system, the categories were more rigid. You could choose 3 categories in your KDP dashboard, like this one right here. You'll find those under KDP ebook details. Now, you can come down here. This is a book of mine called Typewriter Repair Shop. It's an older book. It's been out a while, and I chose this because all of these things are related to this particular book, okay? So I had to go through and make sure I own the copyrights, primary audience is not an adult audience. And then my primary marketplace is Amazon.com. That's the U.S. Amazon store. If this was a translation or for a different market, I could change that to a store in another country. Now you'll see down below here that we have edit categories. Okay, and there's a little help there thing that says, what are categories? Okay, categories are the things, this is the basis that Amazon uses to categorize your book. Now, it used to be you could choose 3 categories, and then you would have to go back in to your books, to an email KDP, and you could get them to add you to up to 10 categories. Okay, that ability is gone. If you email them now, they will no longer add you to 10 categories, okay? These categories are not the same as the ones they had before either. The categories before were extremely rigid, and you could do some stuff and get away with some stuff before with categories that you can't get away with anymore. So you can select 3 categories, okay? That's all you can select, but these categories are a little more broad, and Amazon's done some things that make these categories apply to more of the smaller kind of hidden categories or ghost categories that you'll see, and we'll talk about those in just a minute as well. Okay, so what's happened with the new categories? Well, first of all, they've been simplified and consolidated. So some that were huge, big categories or like weird individual niche categories have been categorized into one category. That means that Amazon is using other means to analyze where your book, because those categories still exist. You just can't choose them on this dashboard. But Amazon is using other ways to get your books into those categories. Now, what are they doing? Well, the thing that they are doing is they're looking at your keywords. If you scroll down from your categories, we'll scroll back up here in a second, but if you scroll down to your categories, you'll see some keywords. You can choose up to 7 keywords, and within those keywords, you can choose keyword phrases, okay? And those phrases can therefore include even more keywords that can help Amazon to determine exactly where your book should fit in these categories. So we've added some other language here that doesn't fit into the categories that are the 3 categories that are listed up above. Okay? Because we're trying to force Amazon to do that. But Amazon is also doing some other things as well. And what they're doing is they're looking at your book blurb and the keywords that are in your book blurb, which is one of the things we talk about in SEO for Authors, our course about using keywords and how Amazon is a search engine. So it's using those, but it's also using a scan of the content of your book to determine what the metadata really should be and what your book really is about. So this is kind of a relatively new development. There's information that says Amazon's doing this for everyone. It's not doing this for everyone, whatever the case may be. But what is happening is Amazon is using a larger data set that it has, rather than trusting you as the author to tell them what 10 categories this book should belong in. Amazon is determining what those categories are by analyzing your actual book, okay, and your book blurb, the book blurb that you've created. This is why it's important to include keywords in that as well. Now, why does this matter? Well, this matters because these things can impact your discoverability in searches. If you just leave your old categories alone, the ones that you had before, well, Amazon will use those to try to determine where to put your book. But since those categories don't exist anymore, some of them don't exist anymore, you don't know where your book is going to be put. You've lost a certain amount of control. Now, we've lost a certain amount of control with these changes anyway, but some people are saying Amazon actually does a better job of categorizing your book than you do most of the time, okay, once you give them those general categories. But there are things that you can do to impact what those categories look like. Now, there's some positive impacts. So positive impacts is this does allow niche readers to find more niche books. It allows Amazon to direct them to those niche categories with those tropes that you put into your book description, things like that, that really help narrow things down. What this means for you is that those people that click on that category are really looking for a book that's like yours. So they're more likely to buy it. So conversion rates can and sometimes are generally higher. So this is why a lot of people saw a drop off in sales as soon as Amazon changed these categories. But once Amazon started rolling out the other changes and those authors went in and changed their categories, their sales may have stayed about the same or gone up a little bit, but their conversion rates are much higher. And Amazon has told us that they count conversion rates in the visibility of your book in the search engine. Okay, so we're going to have to believe them on that and say that that is a positive impact of these category changes. Now, the other thing that's a positive change is that this provides a better consumer experience. The consumer actually sees things that they're looking for, sees books that are related to them, unless you're misadvertising your book to the wrong things, and we'll talk about that briefly in a second as well. So it provides a better customer experience. Hopefully what this results in is better reviews. You're less likely to have someone say about your book, "Oh, I didn't realize this was steamy romance. I thought it was Christian fiction, and I was really offended by everything in the book." Right? You're highly unlikely for that to happen because it's much more likely that the people that really do want to find your book are the ones that are more likely to find it. Okay. The other thing that is a positive change is hopefully what this is doing is there's better alignment between your book's actual content and what readers are searching for. Okay, so you're getting a better experience as an author as well. What this should mean is that your Amazon ads should perform better if you're using them correctly. Using carefully the automatic Amazon ads data, you got to be careful about that. And we're going to talk about an AI tool that promises to maximize your Amazon ads, and we're going to test it to see if that actually works as well. But there is a lot of information that Amazon has, and that can create better alignment for you. But what are some of the challenges that come along with these category changes? Okay, well, one thing is that authors may have been relying on getting their book into some niche categories, and those niche categories were where they were getting their sales. Now, if you're writing quickly enough, you only need a few hundred readers that are looking at and looking for your books in order to make a living as an author. And some of those hyper niche categories allowed authors to target those fans very specifically, but their books may not be showing up in those categories anymore. So they may have lost that ability for that extremely niche category. On the flip side, since we've got broader categories and wider categories, there can be more competition within those wide categories, which means it's harder for you to rank over someone else. It's harder for you as an author to be competitive And if a whole bunch of people are targeting ads to those general categories, the cost of your ads can significantly go up too. In reality, what this means for authors is you need to raise your prices. Now, indies have needed to raise their prices, and that's a whole other video for a whole other discussion, a whole other time. But indies have needed to raise their prices anyway to match what traditional publishers are doing, because that margin is how traditional publishers are able to run ads to their books successfully, even with a higher bid. Okay, so that's another aspect of that, but it is a challenge for authors. Now, what can authors do? Okay, there's a few things that you can do. First of all, you need to audit the categories that your book is in right now. Now, a part of that is just coming into your dashboard, coming down here and editing categories and looking at your options and making sure that all of these options are actually available and that they actually work for your book. Okay, so I can look at each one of these and make sure that they actually exist, that they're not categories that don't exist. And I can see that I've got a couple of these in the same thriller suspense category, ghosts, psychological thrillers, short stories. Okay, so I'm good because this is a novella. It's relatively easy. Okay, so I'm good here. The other thing you can do is you can revisit your blurb and make sure that you're including keywords. A lot of times this includes, we just did a video, we're doing a video on AI to help you create blurbs, and one thing that AI is good at is to, in that last call to action sentence, add a bunch of tropes and keywords that your readers are going to really be looking for. Okay, that's also going to help Amazon direct your book to those right categories. Okay, the other thing you can do is to edit these keywords. Now, I would highly recommend, if you have not gone back since these changes have happened in Amazon, that you go through and you edit all of your categories and audit all of your keywords. Now, this sounds like a simple thing to do, and it is, because you can usually see kind of where your book fits in a large way, but there are some other things that you can do, and that's using a tool that we highly recommend here at Plot Geek Academy, and that's called Publisher Rocket. So if you don't already have Publisher Rocket, we'll have a link for you down in the description below. That's an affiliate link. If you click on that and buy it through our link, we get a little bit of commission there. That's always really helpful for us. But we only, here at Plot Geek Academy, we only talk about tools that we use and that we really highly recommend. Now, you're going to see some things that you can do. We're going to ignore the keyword search, the competition analyzer, the Amazon ads, and the reverse ASIN lookup, because those aren't going to be really helpful in this particular case. Now, when you use the reverse ASIN lookup, that can be very helpful for keywords. But of course, right now, what we're focused on is these categories. So what we can do is we can come in here and we can enter a category search, and we can enter at least 3 words to get started. So let's say we want to, or 3 letters. So let's say mystery and thriller, mysteries and detectives. Now, it came out to children's books here immediately. So we're going to go mysteries. Oh, mysteries and thrillers. No categories found. So let's go mysteries. Okay. So we'll scroll down past this and we'll see past children's books, past religion and spirituality, which is interesting. But notice that we've got some interesting things here. First of all, this tells you whether this is a selectable category. Okay, so is this one that you can select in those Amazon categories or not? Okay, now in this particular case, there's several of these that start with that, but we get down to audiobooks. Obviously, audiobooks, this is not something selectable. Books, teens, mysteries, and thrillers is also not selectable. So somewhere in your keywords, you would want to include the word teens if you have a book that's designed for teens. Now, there's middle grade. There's certain other categories. Anyway, so it's really interesting, though, that we have the LGBTQ, and then the Kindle books, teen and young adult, but not specifically teen, so that would fill in, but that's also not selectable. So notice that some of these are selectable, some of them are not. Some of them are duplicate categories, okay, where they show up more than once in KDP. Each instant reports, ends up pointing to the same category page. Okay, but it's going to show up under different there's different ways to select this in KDP. So if you select this twice as two of your categories, you're really only aiming for one category. So you don't want to do that. So you want to look at these duplicate categories. The romantic, mysteries, and thrillers, that would be our book unreadable, would kind of fall into that particular category. Okay. But you see that we can see whether we can select these or not. And the ones that we can't, we can kind of make some guesses as to what keywords we would need to include to get Amazon to throw it in this category if we wanted to. Okay. Now, this is a good category, pretty easy to rank for. Sales to number 1 is only 190. That's pretty good, right? That means you can rank in the top 10 pretty easily, and what's interesting, so this is a publisher percentage. This is from a significantly sized publisher. You're going to find that teens and children's books, a large percentage of them are from a significant publisher. Okay, but you can also see which categories are being used by indie authors, which categories are being used by traditional publishers, things like that. So you can dive into these categories pretty deep. Now, this is the ones that it has for mysteries and detectives. But what this is this is clickable. So I can go clickable and I can look here and see what the Amazon bestsellers are in children's, mystery, detective, and spy. So this gives me a way to look up perhaps some of the covers, some of the other keywords that these people are using that are ranking pretty highly in this category. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do. You can also click here for insights. This is going to tell you the sales to number 1, sales to number 10, the KU percentage, if there is one. Now, this is a children's book, so not a lot of these are in KU. Publisher percentage, pretty high because this is a children's book. Average duration, 419 minutes. Average rating, 4.6. Average age, so these are mostly older. Indie price is $9.64. Average publisher price, $10.07. Those things are coming together, relating closely together. So anyway, so that's really interesting stuff. We would want to go down to things that are more leaning towards adult mysteries for the kind of stuff that I write. So I would be skipping these things and headed up to like mysteries and thrillers. Let's see here, which there's a lot of children's here. Let's just change our category a little bit. There we go. Books, mystery, thriller, and suspense. And now again, notice that this is one that you can't select. But you can select release procedurals, okay? So we could go look at that category, and we can look at some insights here. Sales to number 1, 861. Indie price is $6.79. Average publisher price is $8.40. What that means is the indie can probably come up on price and actually be okay. Now, you have to look at that some of this also in the indie price includes people that are listing their first in series for 99 cents. Right? Sales to number 10, 84. Average age, average ranking, KU percentage, not applicable. Publisher, 77%. Now look, category growth, down an average of negative 47 sales per month. So this category has relatively flat growth, high competition, high profit for the top people. It has high variations, which means only a few bestsellers might be driving its growth stats. Okay, so what that means is there's high variation in the sales of books. The lowest books are probably not selling very many at all. The highest books are selling a lot. So when we're looking at the sales category growth and things like that, it can be only a few books that are really influencing that. So this is an interesting way to look in depth at each category and determine, hey, this is selectable, but is this a category that I want to be in without trying to niche down with some keywords? And the answer is probably not in this particular case. It's hard to say, though, because it depends on your book. Okay, now this one, Hard-Boiled Mysteries, publisher percentage is 40%, down 20 sales per month, relatively flat growth, high competition, also high profit, also high variation. Again, this is really common in a lot of categories in that if there's a lot of indie authors that are putting things in this categories, they may not be advertising a lot, they may not be selling a lot of books, so it may be a relatively few number of books that are actually influencing these sales per month category growth numbers. Okay, and that may be just that traditional publishers aren't releasing a lot of these at this particular time of year or something along that line. But this one's one that's much easier to compete in. Sales to number 1020, sales to number 156. Average indie price, again, is only a little bit lower than the average publisher price. Again, that can be influenced by 99-cent series leader prices or free series leader prices as well. Okay, so anyway, super interesting information about categories that you can get from Publisher Rocket, and then you can use that information to go back into your KDP dashboard, and then you can use that when you're editing these categories to make good decisions about which one of these categories you want your books to be in. Okay, so that's some action steps that you can take as a result of these category changes with Amazon. Now, there's some tips that we'd like to give you for marketing and for visibility. The first one is to leverage your niche. If you have a niche and you can get down into that niche with keywords and other categories and things like that, then do it. Leverage that, use those tropes, use those words in your advertising and in your descriptors and in your language to get Amazon to see what that book really is all about. The other thing to consider is that if you're trying to leverage your niche and Amazon keeps putting your book in a different category, there may be some things inside the book or in your blurb in the way you're selecting categories or keywords that are impacting that, and Amazon is not putting your book where you would really like it to be. Okay, so that's number one. Leverage your niche. Number two, keep up with trends. Now, this is something I'm doing all the time. People talk to me all the time about how do you keep up with trends, and I'm just always watching everything. Every little bit of publishing news is something I'm grabbing onto and seeing. How does this impact me? How does it impact my sales? How does it impact my ads? How does it impact my career? Those things are really, really important to me, so I'm watching them all the time. Keep up with trends in your category and in your niche and in your genre and see what's happening. Talk to other authors. Talk to people who are experiencing some of the things that you are, and keep paying attention to that publishing news. We try to cover a lot of that for you here at Plot Geek Academy, but we can't keep up with it all. So there's all kinds of other sources that you need to go to out there to pay attention to these particular things. Okay, number three is experiment. Try different things, experiment with different keywords, experiment with different categories, and see where your book does the best. Keep going back to Publisher Rocket, look at which categories have sales growth. There's also the K-Lytics reports that you can get every few months. That's put out by Alex Newton, and his group takes a big overall look at things over an extended period of time. It can tell you a lot about what trends, what's trending in different niches. Experiment with prices, experiment with all of those different things in your niche and in your category to see if you can increase your sales and your marketing and your discoverability. The next one is join author communities. We have a small community here at Plot Geek Academy. We've got some plans to build that bigger coming into the new year. And we want you guys to talk to each other. Talk to each other about what you're seeing with keywords, categories, ads, all those different things, because you can help each other achieve things that we can't keep up with and help you guys achieve. So join author communities. Talk to other authors. If you have a question, if something weird's happening on your account or something like that, talk to those authors in your group and find out what they're doing and how they're making things work. Okay, so what did we talk about today? Well, basically we talked about the fact that Amazon categories have changed and it's created some chaos for authors, and that if you haven't done it already, you need to go back in and look at those categories. Audit your current categories, audit your current keywords, audit those things, and make sure that your book is optimized the best it can be. If you can do that manually. You can use tools like Publisher Rocket. You can look at trends using tools like K-Lytics, all of those different things. Okay, you can do all of those things. All of those things can be helpful for you. But just be sure that you do it, that you take action and you go back in and you audit your categories. Now, if you've had experience with this, maybe you've had some weird things happen with your Amazon categories or your keywords or something like that, and you want to tell us about them or you want to talk to us about them, hey, leave a comment in the comments below and let us know, or email us, info@theplotacademy.com. That's info@theplotacademy.com. I'll put that on the screen there for you since I fumbled that up with my speaking. And shoot us an email. We'd love to have a conversation about it. We'd love to make a video about it, make a blog about it, even interview you about it if you're willing to talk to us about some of the things that are happening with your categories and with your career. Okay? And with that, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. We hope you find these videos to be educational. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notifications bell so you don't miss a single thing whenever we release a video. And we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.